Well, good morning to anybody who may be here. I want to speak for a moment about artificial intelligence, AI. And the reason it's on my mind is because Rupert Lowe, the leader of the Restore Britain party, who I believe has been anointed, and I'll speak of that in a moment. But in an interview, he claimed that we need to bring AI into the civil service to sort it all out and to make it more efficient. And that's the first time that he said anything that I greatly disagree with, because I see AI as an unclean thing and a source of wickedness. And I just don't want it anywhere near anything. And this is a spiritual matter. I mean, you could say that I have a more intimate knowledge of AI than many people because of my profession. And AI started troubling the waters in my profession quite a while ago. And I've been dealing with it in my own work for several years now. And people continue to think that it's a useful tool. But my experience as a translator is that it is a very deceptive way of approaching any work. And it really doesn't help my day-to-day activities at all. In fact, it hinders them. Because when I'm given an AI-generated document that I'm then asked to reform and make it more human-like, I can't discern the thread of human thought and intention of the author. All I have is a collection of words. And I know plenty of words. I don't really need the words. I need the conscious intention of an author so that I can understand where he or she is coming from and what they are saying, or sometimes that would be trying to say, because, we're not all language experts. I mean, I'm not. And that's lacking in an AI document. So I took quite a stand against it, because I understood that not only would it be a very long procedure to produce an intelligible document, but I didn't have any source. So every query, I would have to go back to whichever company had generated it, and then they would have to find out from their engineers and from their marketing people what exactly they were trying to say. And that's obviously a long procedure, and it's something that the companies themselves don't want to get involved with. So, AI is nonsense. This is the problem. And people don't see it because they don't have to read documents with the same level of scrutiny that I do as a translator. So they think it's useful, but in actual fact, it's a Trojan horse for wicked spirits to come in and pervert the ideas underpinning everything. Because a lie is, never more insidious than when it's artfully concealed in language. Language can be a very tricky subject, and there is a matter of holiness. Language is the holy means of communication, and the minute we open the doors to artificial intelligence that is not from God, then we have defiled the medium. So I'm in great disagreement with Rupert Lowe when he says that, although of course it's true that we need a radical overhaul of our civil service and the interactions between citizens and state, which has become just mired in corruption and inefficiency. But we can only achieve that by bringing honest men and women to have conversations where they're required, and keeping AI out of any conversation that may ensue. Simplification, really. You could say that Rupert's proposal is actually in the realm of reformation, whereas the basic ideology underpinning the new party is restoration, which is what we need. If you restore the correct relations with the ruling bodies, then really you're looking at the Sanhedrin. Those are the people that took over from Moses to judge in the many varieties of different cases that were brought to be judged. That's the restoration. But AI is a perversion, and that would be an attempt to reform a broken system that cannot be reformed. It needs to be razed to the ground and removed. People don't understand the significance of the battle of AI that is described in the book of Joshua, in chapter 7, I think it is. Yes. You might say, well, you're forcing a point, but I don't think I am. That city is called AI, and our people were defeated at the walls of AI. And 36 Israelites were smitten. They lost their lives. The number itself is significant, of course, because 3 and 6, there is your 666. And you could say also the 33, but the 666 comes immediately to mind. That's 3 sixes. And it was because the camp was defiled, that there was uncleanness amongst our people. And, we can't progress and maintain uncleanness in our ranks. We must be holy. And there's many parts of the Bible where you can see this for what it is. So, I don't know. Rupert Lowe probably isn't, a great Bible reader himself, and some of my ideas you might think, well, they're a bit out there, but I think this is a sound perspective and it needs to be considered. And most people really don't want to have a relationship with one of these infernal machines, which is what they are, where conversation is replaced with artificially generated language. It's a very, very dangerous thing, and it needs to be stamped out, not used massively, as Rupert has suggested in that particular instance. Perhaps it's also because of the endorsement of the party by Elon Musk, and who's spoken highly of Rupert and of Restore Britain and has given space, and this is a wonderful thing, given a voice on his social media platform. And I don't think he's financed it. I don't think any hands have been joined. But nonetheless, this might be an aspect of his influence, his spiritual influence over any movement. They will try to co-opt everything, you see. And Elon Musk, whoever he is, he's not on the Lord's side. we understand that. I've been listening to Elon Musk for many years in the conspiracy field, and he's not saying anything that as a believer I could possibly really agree with. So that's one disagreement that I have with Rupert, who I've come to believe really he's embodying a Davidic spirit in the land, and he's doing what the king should be doing but isn't, in that he's strengthening our people and giving us a voice and questioning the wicked and uncovering truth and insisting on truthfulness. I see him as being anointed. There's nobody else really to compare with the wonderful things that have been done through him. So, I'm quite optimistic. And yesterday, for the first time, I had a short chat with one of my neighbours, who is a Muslim lady, and we're quite friendly. And I asked her what she thought about all, what's going on and all this talk of remigration. And she told me that she has become so anxious that she had to stop listening to the news. It's just triggering everything. And, she's a very calm and peaceful person, and certainly not at all radical in her views. I did actually give her a Bible at one point. I've never asked whether she's opened it or not. But she told me she had some friends who had converted from the Muslim faith to become Christians, and so I thought that gave me the opening. I'm not really interested in converting people, but she did seem to be curious about it. People have to believe what they understand, but they don't question the premises. This is the problem. They don't really do their due diligence in this matter and many others. So I wonder whether there isn't perhaps a spirit of anxiety, a spirit of fear in the heart and mind of our potential enemies. I'm saying potential because I think every individual has a choice how to conduct himself or herself, and the same with our people, of course. Also today there's going to be a very big rally quite near my house in support of British patriots, and it's St. George. I think it was St. George's Day yesterday, so this is a St. George's Day parade, which typically attracts a lot of people on motorcycles and an awful lot of flags and very obvious kind of British patriots. A lot of British flags, I should say, not English flags. We'll see a lot of the St. George's flag, but again, the authenticity of that piece of cloth is questionable. We are not, I don't think, to be getting involved in martial activities. This is the problem, whereas a lot of patriotic Britons disagree. They see that this is an inevitability. So that'll be, things are kind of warming up, I suppose you could say, in England. And the hand of the Lord is being revealed continually, but there are many who don't discern it and don't even seek it, quite frankly, because of disbelief or because of easy belief. It's another thing that I'm a little bit critical of, I saw a big rally. I think it was being filmed perhaps in Ireland, perhaps it was in America, a very large group of people all almost marching in sync, and they all kneel on one knee in a large square, and they recite in unison what some people call the Lord's Prayer, the Pater Noster. And then after coming to an end, they leap up onto their feet and start to march. That's, to me, that's just performative. That's man. It's not holiness. The Lord's Prayer isn't. It's not to be used like that, I don't think. It's a very precious piece of advice or recommendation from Jesus Christ as to how we should speak. But just repeating those words, whether singly or in unison, I'm doubtful that that's the intention. I think we are to meditate on the meaning of the words, and certainly, a man or a woman in his or her prayer closet can certainly use them, and perhaps should. But again, I have this vision that the Lord's Prayer should be recited in the singular, because I ask for forgiveness for my own sins, and I don't ask for forgiveness for the sins of others. I think it's been mischaracterized simply because it's plural in the Bible. And if we're reading from the Word of God together, then we'll read it in the plural. But we have to think of our own personal responsibility and ask for forgiveness for our own sins, rather than for another man or another woman's sins. It's not under our hand, I don't think. Although, we may be wishful, particularly if we're speaking of our children and people who are close to us, that the Lord move for them. And, I've made that prayer myself, thinking of specific other people, but just generally, I don't think it can be applied in that manner. God bless this day. It's a beautiful day here in Albion, and as I say, there's a big march happening, and I won't be going because I have to wrestle with not flesh and blood, but with a translation. God bless now.